Now, after living in a share house for 1 year with three of my best mates, I think I have stumbled upon just a fact of life and something that, we all figure out at one point in time. And that is that there is a fundamental difference between a real estate agency and the individuals who work there and everybody else. Now, I'm not trying to be them and I. I'm not trying to further this disconnect. I'm just making a little bit of an observation of what I've seen and what I've experienced. And the reason for this observation, this disconnect between the two, I think stems from what we both consider as emergencies. And I'm going to tell you an anecdote, a story that I think will showcase this in a really bite-sized tidbit of information, just something informative to get our heads wrapped around this concept. So, as I said, I lived in a share house with three of my best mates, just 2 houses down from where I currently live now. And in this time, we should have known. For the first 3 weeks of us being there, we broke a window accidentally. It was a faulty window. It was nothing to do with us. It never got fixed. We got our entire bond back. We ended the lease with this window still being broken. It had been broken for at least 11 months. So that's the foreshadowing. That's when we should have known there was a difference, maybe in living standards, and maybe the hierarchy of importance of maintenance. But the real story, the crux of this matter, is when we discovered what we thought was grey water. Grey water on our front doorstep. We thought, oh, this is a bit weird. Looking at the laundry pipes, you wouldn't think that grey water would be coming out of these ones. It just didn't really add up. And I mean, we're not plumbers or anything, but I think we had a fundamental grasp of the flow of liquid in tubing that we understood that there was something amiss. So we sent them an email. They said, oh, well, of course, this was back during the worst of COVID lockdowns. And they said, well, we can't actually attend to any maintenance unless it's an emergency. So essentially let us know if it gets worse. And we think, oh, okay, I mean, maybe we're being a bit dramatic about it. It's not that big of a deal. It's, it's only grey water. Well, what was an offence on site quickly became an offence of the senses, the smell, the odorous smell that wafted, this putrid waft. It was contaminating the entire street. And we emailed and go, we're smelling something very severe. It is definitely some sort of organic matter. It goes on, it's not an emergency. Well, what it took for it to be considered an emergency was what I call the fecal fruition, where, I'm sorry, this is a bit of toilet talk, but I'm sorry that it's not, I didn't create this story. It happened to me. I experienced it. It wasn't until human effluent and toilet paper was strewed just across the front doorstep where they came and fixed it. Now, why I brought this up is if a resident of a house that you are the property manager of says that there is sewerage, it's obviously bad enough. The situation is bad enough for them to think that it's sewage. So, I mean, any circumstance, I would consider an emergency. All I'm asking for is maybe for someone to sit down with the real estate entity. I don't know maybe they unionize. I don't know if they have a union. I haven't actually done much research. But if we could all just sit down in a room and have a conversation about what constitutes an emergency, because I think that really needs to be done. I had to step around sewage for about 2 months during lockdown. If you really consider it, I was isolated in my house by a moat of feces. And I think that constitutes an emergency. The disconnect, the difference, why is it there? Is it systemic? Is it power play? I don't know. But as I said, the United Nations, I don't know if they would be the ones who could do this, but if they could just have a conversation, I would be really thankful. So that's my little story.